All right, good morning. We are live here for this live edition of the New Warehouse podcast. And today we are going to, we're in the thick of conference season and we're going to talk about a conference. But we're going to talk about a conference that's a little different today. We are going to talk about all things Supply Chain Point. And you may have seen me talking about Supply Chain Point on LinkedIn, or maybe just mentioning it to you directly, because I am on their advisory board, and it's a conference that I have come to love over the last 3 years now, and really enjoyed being a part of. So wanted to share today what Supply Chain Point is all about with some people that are from Supply Chain Point. We're going to have Colby Taylor joining us from Supply Chain Point, Annie Diamond from Supply Chain Point joining us as well. And we're also going to have past attendees joining from both sides of the table. From our supplier side, we're going to have Roy from Ocado join us, and Charles on the executive side joining us. He's the CEO of Bergen Logistics, and we're going to hear a little bit about what they think. But if you're tuning in today, let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know if you've heard of Supply Chain Point as well. That'd be great to know. And if you have any questions today throughout the conversation, feel free to drop them in the comments, whether you're listening from LinkedIn, YouTube, or X, wherever the case may be. Let us know if you have questions, what you're thinking, and if you're curious about the conference and how to get involved, or why is it so different. Hopefully we'll cover that, but if you have specific questions, you can put those in the comments as well. So let's get into the conversation today. We're going to talk a little bit about the experience from both sides of the table. But first, maybe Colby, why don't you kick things off for us here? I gave a little bit of my take on Supply Chain Point, but give us kind of the high level overview of what is Supply Chain Point exactly.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Colby Taylor. I am new business development for a company called Connecting Point Marketing Group. And we host a very unique event called Supply Chain Point that focuses on all things warehousing, distribution, logistics, supply chain technology, to provide a different type of platform for people to grow their business relationships in a very intimate, curated format. It's a 2.5-day event. You come on Sunday, leave on Wednesday, and through a very short period of time, we get a lot of work done and have a lot of fun as well. So we have boardroom presentations based on your targets and the needs of our executives. We have pre-scheduled one-on-one meetings so you can connect directly with your targets and grow your business relationships. And we have a lot of fun while doing so. So we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. I like to joke that it's like summer camp. We go to a beautiful resort for the 2.5 days. And it's such an intimate scale that we're talking about 45 executive decision makers like Charles, and then 32 to 34 supplier companies like Roy's company, Ocado. And we have a very high caliber audience. So on the executive side, typically director level and above, who are decision makers looking to innovate their warehouses, distribution centers, their operations for more efficiency. And anywhere from retail to 3PL, wholesale, e-commerce on the executive decision maker side. We're very intentional about vetting our executive audience who participate to ensure that they're in a place to support the suppliers, but also in a place where this would be an efficient way for them to vet new solutions for their business. On the supplier side, we have wonderful companies like Roy's, Ocado, and we have a very strong supplier list. If you were to flip a warehouse upside down and shake it, all the things that would fall out, with additions of transportation,
like
final mile, all the things. So it's a really unique opportunity. People tell me all the time, I've done the speed dating events, or I've done something similar. And I mean, I would love to hear from Charles and Royanna on this, but I find that the feedback we get on this event is that the detail and the curation of finding the right people to participate and setting the expectation prior to getting there, so that when we all arrive, it's really just an authentic experience together. I think that's kind of what sets us apart from other people. And Yeah, but I want to hear from you guys because that's my little spiel. But you're the
Yeah.
ones who participate and who are coming back, so I want to know.
Yes. Let's get the real voice from the floor here, definitely. And I also, Colby, I mean, I think the two words that you said in there that stand out to me personally as somebody that's attended now for twice as well, and this will be the third year for me. The intimate and curated, right? And I think it is definitely like, a very kind of close but well curated group of people that will not only foster business and connections, but relationship and ultimately like that fun as well. And I think a lot comes out of that. So let's hear kind of the perspective of attendees. Charles, why don't you kick us off here? Maybe tell us a little bit about, because you attended for the first time last year, so tell us, like, how would you describe the event from an executive perspective?
I thought it was an exceptional event. I remember, Kevin, you came at me and I'd gotten an invite and I was sort of like, oh man, I can't do any more conferences this year. It's just too many conferences.
Yeah.
And then you twisted my arm and I was like, fine, I'll come to this show. And I was astounded. It was like no other event I'd ever attended. Very intimate. Very bespoke. There was we kind of did a conference where we discussed what my needs were as far as like what vendors I was looking for this year, what just projects I had going on. So there's a bit of a marrying there. And in the beginning I was just like, oh, just any other conference. And then I walked into it and it's a beautiful resort. All expenses paid for my side, executive side anyhow. And just you got, you're going to ask me more questions, so I better not kill it all now. It was amazing.
Oh, we just lost him there for a second.
I think that was a mic drop.
Yes,
that was a mic drop, and then he left the building. Yeah.
Yes. Charles been having some difficulty with his camera, I think so, but we'll get him back here in a second, I'm sure. So great kind of feedback there from Charles on the executive side. Maybe Roy, let's jump to you and say from the supplier side, like how would you describe the event from the supplier side?
Yeah, so I'm going to mirror, what Charles said. I had the opportunity to meet Colby and another member of the organization at the time to introduce me to this platform. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I, like Charles, have been in this industry longer than I care to actually mention, right? But the gray hair always gives us away. And one more conference, right? One more conference. I took a chance on this thing because of how Colby described it. And what I will say is it absolutely delivered, okay? She used two words that rang to my ears, Kevin, and that was the authenticity and the intimacy. And when I say that, we've all been to a lot of conferences and you don't get the opportunity to spend much time with somebody like Charles, right? Mm-hmm. He comes up, I may get 10 minutes of him. So does every other vendor and solution provider that's trying to change what he's doing within the buildings, right, that he operates. What was different about this was I really got quality time with Charles to really understand his business across those 2.5 days. And I got it in different ways. The events that happened on this summer camp, like Colby said, but the boardroom presentations, for me to tell Charles, here's our why, here's our purpose, here's why it matters to you. And then to align that with Charles's business on where are you going and why would this matter to you is what's impactful. And I get that in a couple of ways. I get that from the feedback of the boardroom presentation that he was in, number one. And then I also get that as a follow-up because he does that work as he leaves those boardroom presentations. And I get to see him later that day or the next day and have a conversation on the feedback that he gave me. And you don't get that anywhere else, guys. Along with that, you build this incredible community of the people that are there, right, that are attending. And I will say, it is a lot of work. But it is what I want out of a conference for the investment that I'm making as a supplier and somebody who brings solutions to organizations like Charles.
Yeah. Charles, you want to add something?
We do shows occasionally, and we always say you get back from a show what you give to the show. So yeah, it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's a heavy lift. You're with everybody. You're meeting new people. It's very interesting, but
Yeah, but
challenging.
Charles, to the
Especially
point that you're
I'm an
making,
introvert, and that.
yeah. But you know, other shows that I go to that have quote talked about this platform,
Yeah.
people like you disappear, and they're not there. And I don't know how Supply Chain Point makes this happen, but we are literally interacting with each other. We are doing those fun events, and it isn't all business, like Colby said. It's also a heck of a lot of fun, and the things that we did were engaging. And you really do think, oh, nobody's going to want to do this. Absolutely everybody was engaged in the events that Supply Chain Point put on, and it was a ball. And my relationship circle expanded. I knew Kevin after that event. I know Kevin. Like our relationship has expanded since we met.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and I mean, I'm sure he knew me and I knew him. You know, through the industry.
Mhm.
But now I know him, and now when I see Kevin, it's not just, you know, what's the latest thing you're doing. It's also about him, and to me, that's important because I'm a people person anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it does like foster those great relationships like you're talking about there, Roy. And Charles, I'm curious maybe from your perspective, because Roy said something there interesting, like you know, at some of these conferences, like you said, you know, the Charleses of the world, like they tend to disappear at certain points and things like that. But Charles, as you mentioned, you know, it's like I mean, it's a long day, right? But it's an engaged day.
Yeah.
Like what kind of keeps you bought in, you know, to the day and the model of this show itself?
Well, I'd say last year it's sort of part of it was probably the courtesy, right? I mean, there's a group of people who have paid for me to be at the show, and I felt compelled to be at the show for them. I will say it is an exhausting day, and I did sneak out of a couple of evening events early, but at least I could be fresh for the morning.
Sure. Yeah.
It is a long day, and what always I love and it kind of astounds me at the same time is when Annie and I are in the office after the evening party, wrapping up a couple of things, checking reports for the next day. And I always walk by the lobby bar on my way back up to my hotel room. And it's always filled with Supply Chain Point people, which warms my heart because after a day where these executives are in boardroom presentations all morning long, and then they're in one-on-one appointments all afternoon. I mean, we really hold them very accountable to be present, and we set the expectation before they show up that these are long days and it is exhausting, but you're going to get so much out of 2.5 days. But then, you know, after the dinner party, the salsa making contest, which I'm sure we'll get into, or whatever our networking activity is, and people jump in with both feet, then people still hang out and want to get to know people even more and talk about their kids, their grandkids, their hobbies at the bar afterwards. And I know people that have closed deals at the bar. So, you know, whatever the platform be, I think it really speaks to the people in this industry really grasping this format and it being so unique of an opportunity to spend that quality time. Even though it's a long day, it's a short stint of days. So it's kind of nice that people really embrace it.
Yeah.
And the energy in the room really does keep the people going. Like people are just so excited to be there. So yeah, you're tired, but you're also like, yeah, let's go have a drink. I don't even care. Let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a ton of fun too, in between, you know, the actual, you know, business aspect of it in itself. And maybe Colby, maybe you want to tell us, because, you know, this is a newer event, right? This is the 4th year for Supply Chain Point, but this model of conference or show has been around for like 22 years, right? In different verticals, different industries. So tell us a little bit about kind of that history. And, you know, we're in the warehouse distribution area, so we love optimization, right? And the optimization of the model of the show itself and how that makes it so kind of sticky.
Yeah. So 22 years running, I'm very proud to share that my mom actually started this company 22 years ago.
Shout out Nancy.
Shout out Nancy. And it's a unique opportunity. She's been in the industry for a long time, going to trade shows, traveling to EuroShop, going to all of the different conferences around the world, and then found a unique format that was so impactful that she was like, we can change the world with this type of format. And it's true. She's shared stories where businesses have really grown from a startup to completely transforming their business with our format, which is such an amazing thing to say out loud and something I'm so proud of and proud to be a part of, because it's fun when I do a sales pitch or I'm telling someone about our events and the person on the other side is like, oh my God, this lady's nuts. She's clearly very passionate about what she does. It's because I really believe in what we do, and I've seen it transform people's businesses. And we've gotten the feedback consistently that our format is very unique and a wonderful opportunity for the right people too, for the people who care about building relationships, for the people who don't go into a conference with the concept, I have to get a PO by the time I leave on Wednesday. That's not our format, and those aren't the people who should be at our event. The people who are there really have that long-term vision of what relationships I make today might completely change my business in the near future. And so my favorite is when people call me 2 years later and say, I played cornhole with Charles 2 years ago at Supply Chain Point on Monday night. He was in my boardroom, didn't have a need for my business at the time, and then just called me up, and we've been in conversation ever since, and we're finally closing a wonderful deal together. Sometimes those are even better stories than the ones that turn around, right after. So there's a good balance, but we have 16 different portfolio events that we host annually. Every event we have is once per year. So we have some construction-focused events, some in-store design events across retail, grocery, fashion, hotels, hospitals, senior living, multifamily, restaurants. And what also is cool for us in the supply chain space, with this being a newer event, is we have a lot of relationships because of those tenured events. Mm-hmm. One of our first ever event that was launched was Store Point, and it was focused around grocery and retail. And so to start with 22 years ago, building these relationships in retail with some of the biggest names in retail and grocery, we got feedback from them, this would be really helpful in our warehousing and distribution space. So that's we listen to our customers and then deliver based on the needs of the industries. And so it's fun when Annie gets to call up our friends from Macy's or our friends from Alo or Kroger and say, hey, we want someone to come from the warehousing department. Who do we talk to? Who's the right decision maker to come? Who's your chief supply chain officer? Who's the right person to show up? So we use our network and our community in our industry. 76% of our audience on both sides for our events is from word of mouth. So it's such a unique kind of format that people share because it's not just another conference. It's a really unique opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even though it's a newer event, it shows that this model has been kind of perfected, right? And it's just coming into play. It's just in a different vertical, right, of the industry, basically. And I think, and it's very fitting, right? As you mentioned, supply chain is kind of touching all of those different things as well that you've focused on over the last 22 years as well. So maybe, Annie, why don't you tell us a little bit about, from the executive perspective, right? Because you're kind of representing the executive group at Supply Chain Point. What's the best way for executives to engage with the event and really kind of get the most out of it? How do you advise them on that?
Sure. I would say the best way to do it is to show up open and willing to be a bit vulnerable. It's not a trade show floor. You're placed in a group of peers that have similar interests and are facing similar challenges that we then match presentations or suppliers to that group, giving you insight to the newest innovations in the space from that supplier. So when you're open about what your challenges are, two things can happen. Someone across the table says, we're dealing with that too. Or they say, oh, we solved that. Here's what we did. People you normally wouldn't get to spend time with are sharing their insights and best practices with each other, which makes this setting so unique. And that's where I see the magic and the value happening. The second piece I would say is to be intentional. Come prepared with clear objectives. Define 2 to 3 key outcomes you want to achieve, whether solving a challenge or building a relationship in targeted areas. And use your time, especially your one-on-ones, to dig into those. The one-on-ones are driven by you. They're strategic. So be strategic with who you want to be talking depth with. And then finally, engage beyond the formal sessions. Some of the most valuable conversations happen between the lines. So over coffee or the snack break and at dinner. Those are the the settings where the real trust builds and the people tend to share the most candid insights. So engage actively, not passively, and that's where you'll get everywhere at this event.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a key thing there is it's not a trade show floor, right? I mean, almost all of us were at Modex 2 weeks ago, right? And we did, don't even know how many steps, right? But I think at this event, like, you're certainly not going to get, 30,000 steps in, right? Unless you intentionally go out and walk around the resort, right? But so I think it's, that makes it a little more closer to, and that intimate feel as well there. But I guess also from the executive side, maybe Charles, maybe you want to tell us a little bit about, now having experienced it once before, this being your second year attending, how are you like going into it from the executive mindset? Like, what are you thinking about? How are you planning out to get the most out of it?
Well, I'm definitely going in a little more relaxed now that I understand what it is.
Love that.
Sure.
But, to your point, the Modex show compared to this show is like night and day.
Mm-hmm.
Modex is very transactional. I go in there a lot of times I'll have a couple points, like you said, Annie, about like, I want to talk to these couple vendors, but then a lot of it's just like, let's do some discovery and see what we can learn. But it's a little bit more transactional on the Modex floor, whereas this is like pure relationships, man. I mean, like, that you get 15 minutes or in a boardroom with me to pitch your product, but it's really the conversations afterwards and building those relationships up. And you're absolutely right, Colby. I mean, I talked to a guy just the other day. He called me. He was one of the vendors, but he was like, "Hey, do you know so-and-so? I need a connection." And I'm like, "Absolutely, Drew, not a problem." And I connected him right away. So it works both ways, and you build some real relationships here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's great to hear. I mean, proof right there, getting that call from Drew, right? But tell us also, Charles, I mean, on the executive side, because there's obviously, value. I mean, obviously you got, challenges in your operation you're trying to solve and do that discovery, like you mentioned, but you also get to interact with like peers, right? So tell us a little bit about how you get some value out of being like in a group of your peers as well.
Well, it's somewhat rare that you can meet with a group of other executives in your arena and have a candid conversation with them. And I think the candidness is the part of it, right? Where it's like, it's a small, both bespoke kind of setting where it's like, we're very comfortable talking to each other. Look, I don't know everything about operations, and there's a lot of different types of operations, and it's always very interesting what you can learn. Like, we do fashion and lifestyle for consumer goods, omni-channel, but then there's like somebody who's doing grocery, and you start talking to someone about grocery, and you're like, "Oh, that's a really interesting idea. I wonder how I can adapt that idea to something I'm doing over here." So yeah, I mean, it's just super interesting, expanding your network. I think we all know how important networks are now. I haven't gotten a new job in probably 2 decades that wasn't related to somebody I knew, right? So those relationships are phenomenal to build up.
Yeah, absolutely. And great to hear that from the executive side, right? And now, Roy, maybe tell us from your side, from the supplier side, like, how are you, because what I heard there is like, there's a lot less transactional side of it, right? And from the supplier, obviously you want to transact at some point, right? But how do you approach it from the supplier side, I guess, in that relationship building style, and not to be so transactional? I mean, how are you going into it, and how do you approach a show like this?
Yeah, it's a great question. And last year was a learning year. It was the first time we attended the event. And obviously we're returning, because of our experience and our outcome, right, at the event. And everything that everybody has said is absolutely spot on. A very different platform. How I will prepare this year versus how I prepared last year is just being much more intentional in regards to that sharing of knowledge about my company, right? Because it's not transactional. And understanding more about why the executives are there, what's going on in their business that we can impact as a community, not just Ocado, but what's going on overall in this community, and how do we change those outcomes, to transform these businesses, right, that we are interacting with, right? And I'm a relationship person anyway, Kevin, but
Yeah, that's
event,
true.
this
I'll
event
validate that.
elevates that. Yeah, I am a total, right? I'm about the person. I really want to understand. I've intense curiosity. This created such a unique format for somebody like me to interact with both sides of this community. Okay. Like I said, the feedback that Charles's, group gives us as suppliers is so key. It's not just about the solution, it's about the impacts. And it's ironic, when I started to join you today, I didn't put my title on here as VP of Strategic Alliances. I said I was the Minister of Supply Chain Impact.
Yeah. I see you changed it back.
I did. I changed it
I
because
loved
I
it.
thought I probably ought to represent Ocado. But that's what I feel like when I'm at this event, right? And that to me is how I, as a supplier, will go into this event, not only this year, but ongoing years. That's really what I got out of this event. And when I came back and reported, to my executive team on, should we do this again? What was it like? Those were the kinds of things that I spoke about. And the fact that we got access to this community that Charles just spoke about in such a different way, that they were also there very vulnerable and talking to us about their business. I'll specifically talk about Ina Colby, who's with Ross Stores, right?
Yeah, Ina's great.
The relationship that I made with Ina last year, how vulnerable she was about what she was going through in her business, I would have never gotten at a trade show, a traditional trade show or a different conference. We had the opportunity to speak, after the boardroom. We had the opportunity to speak, during the one-on-ones. And then we had time, during some of the events to really understand the pain, that she was going through and what she wanted to change. And that's what I'm looking for. That's how I will go, into the conference this year, with that open-mindedness, and really thinking about not only how does Ocado create an impact for these executives that have provided their time to us, but how do we help them holistically in regards to what's going on in this community?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a key factor there, right? Because a lot of these other trade shows and we talked about like Modex as an example, which, Modex is great. Like everything you could possibly think of is like there, right, under one roof. But it's also like there's a lot of noise, right? So like to your point, Roy, like, there's, not the opportunity to really dig into some of these problems because, people are like, they're on the move, right? Like they feel like, I got to get over to Hall A. I'm in Hall C right now, and that's going to take me like at least 15
And they're
minutes.
exhausted.
Right?
Kevin, right? And so, somebody just told me recently they're in the middle of looking at some solutions in their operation around some workflows, and they literally said, "Why is it that the last vendor I meet is the one I feel like is the one that can solve my problem?" What that speaks to is that we're not getting under the surface when we're speaking to, the executive community that Charles is a part of, and really understanding why he's wanting to change, from this current state to a future state, and that we're not differentiating to him why these different solutions are out there in the marketplace, because there is so much noise. And I actually feel for them tremendously, because I'm one person that's wanting to talk to them, let alone, you look at that Modex floor. And that's what I also love about this conference is the intimacy of it. And that allows that team, of those executives to be vulnerable, to have that time, to not be walking and talking, but sitting down and having a really, intent conversation.
I want to piggyback off of that too, because when I talk to people, Ocado, High Robotics, the Knaps, the big dogs at Modex, when you walk around the floor and you see these big, beautiful booths that, have all the bells and whistles, they're fantastic. And what I love about our format is it's not about the biggest, flashiest booth. It's about the business and it's about what you bring to the table. So what I think is fun is, we have startup companies, that come to our event and invest all of their marketing dollars to come, but it's equal opportunity. It's the same amount that some of the bigger events are spending to participate. It's the same amount for a startup to participate. And it's not about investing $1 million into a booth. It's the same investment to have access to an equal opportunity of executive. And I think from the executive side too, it then allows them the opportunity to see some of these innovative solutions that are coming to market and that are coming across from Europe. There's a lot of crazy things happening in Europe that are going to market in the US to, innovate in warehouses. So, for example, C-React is coming to Supply Chain Point 2026, and they're fantastic.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah, they're blowing up right now. Yeah.
It's just cool to me to share the list of suppliers and show some of the veterans in the industry who are truly amazing, like Ocado, and then some of the folks that are breaking into the industry and want the opportunity to share their product in an intimate format with Charles and with Ina and other folks who come. So to me, that's something I'm proud of, is it's an opportunity for equal opportunity for people to expose really cool solutions in a different type of way.
Colby, that's a really good point, because from the supplier standpoint, if anybody's listening in, the real work is what we do every single day, right? Sharing who we are, right? Our purpose, our why, and why that matters to the executive teams that are out there looking for solutions. There's not work to set up that booth. There's not work. You show up, you're there, and you are basically scheduling these conversations. Yeah. Your work is making sure that you're thoughtful about what you want to share and why. And just making sure you're engaged in this platform that you guys put together. It's just so different. And like I said, I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing a lot of trade shows and a lot of conferences, and this is unique. And so I just really want to make sure people understand, that they really should be looking into this sort of an arrangement. And the work that you guys have done around those boardrooms and the things that come out, it's so different. It's so different. And I was so thankful, Charles, to your community, the way you respond, the way you give feedback that then allows us to be better in regards to making sure we're representing the value on why we exist. That is priceless. And you really don't get that from any conversation or presentation that you're giving day to day as you're trying to present, the solutions that we have in our portfolio, to prospects.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Charles.
No, I just want to say thank you, Roy. There's 50,000 people at Modex. What are we looking at, Colby? What do we got? A couple hundred people?
115 people, probably. Yeah, which is so cool. Because, again, it's not like a quick 15-minute conversation and hope that they answer your calling. It's, we had dinner together, we made salsa together, and then Monday they were in my boardroom, and then Tuesday afternoon we had a one-on-one, and I'm going to call them on Wednesday of next week because Tuesday is their grandson's 3rd birthday, and I don't want to bother them before then. So it's that intimate element, but also, it's not a starting point, it's a start, middle, and really close to the end. And there are so many things I want to touch on that we've all talked about, but, Modex, pulling back to Modex for a second, it was so cool for Annie and I to be there and to walk around, because every time we saw one of our customers, they were hanging out with someone that they met at Supply Chain Point. So it really is, even though they were at a different conference, it's like, oh, they met at our event and they built a relationship and they made sure that they got to see each other at Modex when they knew they would all be together again. So it creates kind of a homecoming feeling. I'm already really excited for seeing everyone again in person at our event. It's such a wonderful opportunity. And Roy, the other piece too, as we're a month out and have a couple of spots left, is you just need your team and your laptop. So that's what I tell people too. I'm like, you don't have to send a marketing team to build a booth. You don't have to bring a demo. You really just come with a quick presentation on what your company does and how it can impact someone's business, and then show up and be ready for conversation, to show up and be yourself and build relationships. Show up well rested, right, Charles?
Yeah, don't stay in the bar all night.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we'll see if we can hold Charles to that. I don't know. We'll see.
Kevin's like,
Kevin, if I can, I'm also wanting Colby to share a little bit around the ongoing intention of this conference. Because one of the things I was concerned about as a supplier was, how big is this going to get, right? Because I don't want to lose this intimate opportunity that I have. Like, what does that look like, Colby? Can you share that with the audience as well?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, there's always a starting point. And going into year 4, we really think about what should our growth look like. And last year, after Supply Chain Point, 66% of the suppliers who participated last year renewed for this year. And so you think about it, how big can we grow? Can we double in size? That's not how we work. We really grow intentionally to keep this niche focus, to keep this intimate opportunity, while also ensuring there's enough new audience year after year. If you came last year, we want to make sure that there's 50% new audience for you to see next year, so that you're still fostering the relationships you met from the prior year, but you also have new business opportunity coming in this year. So we leverage our advisory board, which I don't know if we mentioned this at the beginning, but Roy, Charles, Ina, they're on our advisory board with Kevin. Mm-hmm. And so we meet once a quarter and talk about growth, talk about gaps, what solutions weren't at the event last year that we want to bring to the table this year that the executives are looking for. And then that makes me do my homework and leverage connections with, people in the industry, Kevin and others, to say, we really need to bring a new WMS to the table, or we need to bring, yard management solutions to the table. Who should we call upon? Who are going to be people that these executives will want to invest in? So thinking about gaps and how we can grow without getting too big. We can't just double in size, because then people will come back and say, hey, last year I got to spend a lot of quality time with these executives. This year I really hardly got to meet everybody there, And so we think about it in a way that's intentional. So what's the percentage we can grow at so that there's new audience there, but also so that we're continuing this intimate opportunity. And I will tell you, there are some of our larger, more tenured events, have a lot of suppliers, 140 supplier companies and 180 executives. And we get feedback that that's too big. And so then we as a company break it off and segment the event to bring back to the intimacy. And so we have a wonderful opportunity, I think, with supply chain, because supply chain is enormous in concept, that we're starting in this warehousing and distribution kind of transportation space. And as we grow and thoughtfully grow with the support of our industry experts, we can think about what size do we want to become and what will make us successful, and how can we be the best resource for the industry, not for us, because that doesn't do any good for us. So, how should we be thoughtful about breaking pieces off so that they stay intimate, or having a larger gathering, but keeping it segmented based on different elements within supply chain. So definitely something we talk about as an advisory board as we grow, and something that we're thoughtful about as a company, and how we've continued to be successful even as we get larger.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will, I guess, testify to that, because I work very closely with Colby and Ann on, helping them kind of guide through this warehouse and distribution space, and recommending people and helping with some of that curation as well. And I will say that, they're very, very intentional and thoughtful about who is going to be in that room, who's going to be in that space, and are they going to, add to the environment, right? It's not just about all right, well, let's just get a body from this company, right? Because, it sounds good, right? It's okay, well, who is this person really? Are they really someone that's going to come in and be intentional and, invest in it, like Charles was talking about earlier, and really be there to do this discovery and talk to the suppliers and do those types of things. Same thing on the supplier side. They ask me all the time, is it will this supplier make sense for the executives, and do that type of thing. And I think it's super thoughtful to look at it in that way. And I wanted to go to Charles for a second, because I wanted to ask him, we asked Roy kind of from the supplier side, how she's approaching it and preparing it. But I wonder if maybe Charles has some input there on how he would like to see the suppliers prepare themselves or approach the event.
Yeah.
Oh, you're on mute.
All right, you threw me for a little bit of a curve here. I'm a pretty good bullshitter, but I don't think I can keep up with you. Look, I've got a few projects. I'm not sure how a supplier could come in and necessarily be more prepared, right? It is a sharing. It's it's telling the story of what do you do? What do I do? is there a connection now? Could there be a connection in the future? Is there a different way we do things that I can learn something from you and evolve? I'm definitely coming with the list of like what projects I have open, and I'll be very intentional because you do schedule a one-on-one touch base as well. And I will be very intentional about making sure that, I think last year I was a little bit like, oh, let me chat with this person, that person. I didn't really have a really solid structure of like, well, these are a couple things that I'd really like to take away. And I did miss that a little bit. But I get to meet a lot of people and have a lot of conversations. So I think I skirted it. Maybe I'm a politician. I don't know.
I think something too that is helpful that I've heard from the executive side is the event directory. So a lot of the time the executives will say to us, those suppliers, they have to leverage the event directory before they have a conversation with me, because it's like such a wealth of knowledge. Because we have our event directory is the suppliers complete a company profile to tell a brief overview of what they offer so that the executives can take a look before they have a meeting with them and understand what they're going to talk about. And on the flip side, the executives complete a profile too, to tell them, what business they represent, what their growth looks like, and also what categories they're most interested in. So we tell the suppliers, leverage that before you get there. Read through it, see who's going to be there, understand what businesses are going to be there. Filter it by category. If you're a material handling equipment company, filter it by the executives and who are interested in those categories that you touch on, because it helps prep-wise. And then hopefully, Charles, for the executive side, then these people have done their homework. They leveraged the resources that they had and they came prepared to my conversations. So we can focus more on the relationship building. They know what I need. They're not going to just try and throw spaghetti at a wall. They're going to actually know, a little bit more about my business before we jump into a conversation or a one-on-one. But I think to your point, Charles, often it's more authentic than that too. They have the event directory as a resource and people do their homework, but you start by talking about, I can't believe you won the salsa making contest last night. That is insane. Worst salsa I've ever had. No, just kidding.
Right. You don't need the icebreaker, right, Colby? Because you had it, right? You had that icebreaker. Colby, I want to kind of give you an example of kind of what we just discussed. Guys, I didn't know Charles before last year. Okay. Not only did I not know Charles, I didn't have Charles in one of my boardroom presentations. He wasn't somebody who I clicked and said, yeah, would like to have him in a boardroom. However, I did get a one-on-one with him. And Charles is so authentic. Last year when I met him, to the point that he just said, his business was going through transformation. There was a lot of different things going on in his business. I can remember the conversation as if it was yesterday, Charles, right? And him telling me, this is amazing. I didn't know who Ocado was, to the point that you're educating me, but here's what's going on in my business. I'm not ready yet, but it's so good for me to know this because my business is going to continue to evolve, but I've got a lot of work to do here in the next 18 months is what he told me. And I learned more about Bergen that nobody else would have known without having that conversation with him. Where now Charles knows me, I know him, he can share who we are with his community. And then I can get caught up with him this year and say, where you at? Yeah. What's now going on, right? Yeah. And to hear him say this year, I do have some projects going on. Granted, I'm sitting here and I don't know what they are yet, but the work that he'll do as I'm, preparing to go into this event in now 4 weeks, it'll be aligned. And then I can follow up with him and continue to have, that relationship build. But having, a prospective client like Bergen and know what's going on and having that connection to that larger audience, again, I don't get that at a Modex. I don't get that somewhere else. And that is why attending this thing continues to be important, and on my prioritization list is because of the connection. And yes, the relationship's there, but like I said, I didn't even know Charles at this level last year. And now we can just build upon that and meet more people, and he can introduce more people, and I can as well. As now this year I can go, what are the projects? Because not only do I consider myself a provider of solutions, I consider myself a connector. Yeah. Right, in this supply chain industry. If I'm not the right answer, I want to give Charles somebody who is the right answer, because none of us win if something doesn't work for Charles.
Yeah.
And I need the same thing from Charles back to me if something's not working with my solution for us to improve. And I see Charles kind of getting that little look on his face.
Yeah, this is pure relationships, right? Relationships and trust, man. And how you build trust through relationships. So
Yeah.
that's what makes business go round.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we need to maybe address the elephant in the room, Colby. We've talked about this salsa making competition a couple times. Some people might be like, what are they talking about? What's going on? So tell us a little bit about kind of the event this year and some of the fun stuff that's going on, like salsa making and maybe some other things. And, what is kind of the agenda for this year as we're coming up on the event coming up in Houston at the Woodlands, right?
Yeah. I will start with last year because the salsa making contest will go down in history, I think. But last year, people experienced this event as a new supplier and a new executive last year. A lot of new audience on both sides. So it was a little bit like, are these people going to have fun? Are they going to jump into a networking activity? Are they going to be tired on the Sunday welcome reception after traveling in, that morning? So the first night we had our keynote kickoff, which was Rick McDonald, the former chief supply chain officer of the Clorox company for over 35 years. And he led a really cool conversation on the digital transformation. And we had to shut off Q&A because there were so many questions for him. Luckily, he stayed with us through the event because he had so much fun and continued to answer questions. But from there, we jumped into a hosted Ocado happy hour where Roy welcomed the group and said, I'm excited to find out what this supply chain thing is all about over the next couple of days with you all. And really welcomed and got people excited about the opportunity over the next couple of days. And then our welcome reception was a big Mexican-themed dinner, margarita bar, specialty cocktails, music, and then a salsa making contest. And I think it was our friend from Signet Jewelers who jumped up, grabbed a maroon bandana and swirled it around his head and said, who wants to be on Maroon's team? And I was like, oh God, okay, here we go.
It got competitive.
It was insane. Every single person participated. And if they weren't participating, it's because they wanted to taste all of the different salsas. So what was really cool was people embraced it. Night one, tired, airplanes all day, traveling in, orientation, keynote session. And then at 8 p.m., people jumped right into the salsa making contest. There were backflips. People were bribing judges with tequila. There was songs. It was wild. And it was so much fun because people came up to me afterwards and was like, okay, this is the real deal. This is just the start. And then we had casino night and a cornhole tournament, and this group really loves engagement and activity. So this year we were like, oh no, we need to step up our game. What are we going to do to defeat the salsa making contest? So I hope that it'll be as fun as the salsa making contest, but we have a pretty cool lineup. And shout out to Claire, who's our wonderful event planner and works with the hotel and works with all the operations and plans all the fun evening parties. So she has a cool lineup, and listened to feedback from our advisory board. Roy came up to me at last year and said, I want to see us do like an Olympic challenge, where people are moving around, and Roy, we've delivered. So Sunday night, we're kicking things off with a give back opportunity where we'll break everyone into groups and do the groups will build bikes for kids, which will be a really fun thing. Monday night, we're doing Survivor Olympic Games, which I can only imagine what this crew will do with that. And then Tuesday night is a big mystery because we're doing which this came from Robert Stutson Jr., AFES. He was like, I went to this conference once and I think it would be really cool to do a murder mystery. So not too much to be disclosed because it's a big mystery, but we are doing a murder mystery themed party for our big closing bash on Tuesday night.
Colby, I would add, make sure you bring appropriate clothing. Like, we're doing a boardroom presentation, but you want appropriate clothing, right? Casual. You heard Charles say, I'll come a little bit more casual this year. I did the same thing. Like, this is if you're meeting your friends, right? And not as stuffy, right? When we do these events. And it was absolutely crazy. I would agree with you. It's one of the things I walked away with and went, how did they do that? How did they create this environment? It was incredible.
Business by day, show up with your blazer by day, and by night, put your jeans on, get your sneakers ready, because we're getting down and dirty with a party.
There you go. There you go.
There we go. Perfect way to put it. Definitely. So looking forward to those activities this year, of course, and the relationship building, the networking, all the fun stuff about it. So maybe let's close it out here and tell us kind of all of the when, where, how do you get in touch? It's going to be at the Woodlands, right, in Houston, which is supposed to be a beautiful resort. So maybe tell us a little bit about that. It's May 31st, right? Tell us all those details, Colby or Annie.
Yeah, so we're just over a month away, which is so exciting. The countdown begins. But, like I said before, you just need your team and your laptop if you come on the supplier side. On the executive side, come well rested. There's no preparation really that you need other than read the event directory on the airplane on the way down. And then also make sure that you have a good presentation to deliver, what you do and what you do well, and a customer story to go with it. To deliver, what you talk about for a solution. But we do have a few spots left. So a couple of supplier spots, a few executive spots that we're just looking to fill in a thoughtful way. We already have a wonderful audience on both sides. And so for those last spots that we want to fill, we want it to be really intentional with people who want to show up and engage and participate. So still space, reach out to Ann or I if you're interested in joining this crazy group of people and having a really productive few days at the Woodlands. I'll also mention that we have an optional activity that we do before people arrive. So if you want to come a little early, there's a golf tournament on Sunday morning. There's a Houston space tour to leverage the beautiful space that will be around to learn a little bit about our local community. And then the event kicks off Sunday, May 31st. So show up ready to roll and have some fun. And then people leave on Wednesday morning, first thing. So it's really just Monday and Tuesday out of office. And it's a really great opportunity to connect with some very cool people like Roy, like Charles. And we have some wonderful brands. Thanks to Annie.
Wow, she didn't say me. Did you see that? She didn't say me.
Yours. Kevin is just like, Kevin is Supply Chain Point. All things Supply Chain Point. He's our MC. He's going to be on stage. He's going to record people. He's going to be the fun person. He's going to be the one bringing people to the bar. He's going to drag Charles by his ears to the bar. Kevin is Supply Chain Point. He really, I can't speak highly enough about Kevin and what he's done for us and for this community to foster such a wonderful opportunity with this group. We would not have an event if it weren't for Kevin. And he joined us a few years ago and has been consulting and on our advisory board and helping us find the right suppliers for the gaps in the needs of our executives. So shout out Kevin Lawton. I don't know if you know him, but he's a pretty cool dude.
Yeah, I heard the same thing. Yeah, definitely. So looking forward to the event, absolutely. And yes, I'll be the MC this year, as you mentioned. So we'll have the pleasure of introducing some of the content sessions and the keynote this year, right, from Jim Tompkins, the great Jim Tompkins. Has been in the industry for, I don't even know, a long time. He probably doesn't want to say how many years, but is a fantastic and incredibly knowledgeable guy. I've had him on the podcast a couple of times, so I'm looking forward to that as well, to see what he's going to talk about. But absolutely looking forward to the event this year and excited to be participating again. And we put the website here at the top here for people that want to learn more information, or you can reach out directly to Colby or Annie on the Supply Chain Point team, and also Roy and Charles are on the advisory board. So I'm sure if you have questions from the real attendees, they would be happy to answer those as well, or I'd be happy to answer questions too. So definitely appreciate you all for joining us on the panel here, and we hope to see some of the listeners, viewers today at Supply Chain Point. It is truly a fantastic event and definitely different, as I think we emphasized here today, than the typical thing. And as a reminder, it is May 31st, so it is coming up in just a month, right, in the Woodlands in Houston. But you can come from anywhere in the world, right, to participate. So I think I got all the details there. Anything else we should add here, Colby or Annie?
No, thank you for allowing us to talk about this cool event on your platform, Kevin, and for spotlighting cool opportunities like this for people in the industry.
Absolutely. So if you tuned in late to this, as soon as we end the live stream, the replay will be available both on LinkedIn and YouTube. We also recorded the audio of this. If you want to listen to it on the regular podcast feed, we'll put that up in the next couple of days. But definitely hope to see you at Supply Chain Point. So make sure you reach out, check out the website, and reach out to Colby or Annie for more information. And Roy and Charles, thank you so much for representing for the attendees on both sides of the table today, and looking forward to seeing you both as well in a couple weeks.